Hi there, this is Ranjit from tech2buzz.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about the differences between iOS and Android and which one should you choose. And I get this question almost every week, half a dozen times. And to be frank, I can't answer this question directly because it's a personal preference. Because it depends on which OS you are comfortable with. If you are comfortable with iOS and you want ease of use, you go with iOS. If you prefer Android and customization, you can go with Android. Let me talk about myself and my experience because I've used both these OSs. I actually had used the first iPhone when it was launched. I ran away and asked some of my US friends to send it for me. Though it wasn't launched in India, I got access to it and I loved it. And I had used this iPhone, the first iPhone, then I migrated to the iPhone 3G, and I loved the iPhone because it was radical. At that time, BlackBerry was very popular and I was not a big fan of physical keyboards. So the touch experience and everything about the iPhone was revolutionary. And we did start getting Android devices, but they were very clunky. But something happened in 2000, late 2009, early 2010. I migrated to Android because at that time we started to get some decent Android phones. And I am a person who does not like to jailbreak their phones or root their phones. I like to get the functionality that you can get by the stock experience without tinkering, by just installing official apps or etc. And here Android excelled, because Android allowed me to, without rooting the phone, to change the dialer if I want. If I didn't like the the SMS app, I could change that. For example, in the early days in 2010, the SMS app that used to come with Android was really crappy, and I could easily change that to a third party. For example, if I recall, I used the hand-sent SMS at that time and it was beautiful. And I loved Android because of that. It allowed me to customize the way I want. For example, with Android, I could add widgets. We also got that notification tray with Android. Now that iOS also has that. So I would say that Android is for people who like to customize their phone a lot. For example, you can add live wallpapers, widgets. You can change a lot of core apps, for example, the dialer, the SMS app, etc. Android allows you to do that. On the other hand, iOS is for people who, I would say, do not like a lot of customization. And to be frank, iOS was great. But as of now, I kind of feel it is getting a little bit old. iOS seriously needs to shake up things, and I hope Apple, when it releases the next version of iOS in 2013, does shake up it a bit, because as of now, I do not like iOS because you can't do a lot of things, and it's very similar to what iOS was about 4 years ago. And now let me talk about my family, and we have a mix of devices between iOS and Android. I am completely on Android. I use an Android phone and an Android tablet for my needs, and it serves me well because I like to customize the things a lot, and it serves me. I'll show you all that because, for example, my wife uses an iPad, but she uses an Android phone, and now that her iPad is getting a little bit old, she wants it to be upgraded, and she played with my Nexus tablet for a while, and now she asked me for Android based tablet. For example, she loved the Galaxy Note 10.1 tablet because she liked the S Pen features. She thought it was something different. That brings me to the point that iOS needs to shake up things. Again, recently I gifted an iPad to my father, and the reason for that was he is pretty old. He is all in his late 60s, and I wanted ease of use. I know that he won't be interested in a lot of customization, etc. And thus I gave the iPad to him because it's really simple to use. You have just a bunch of icons, you click it and you get your work done. So that's how I feel. Android is for people who like to customize things a lot, personalize it. Then Android is the way to go. But if you are a person who does not like to tinker a lot with his smartphone or tablet and wants simplistic usage, then iOS is for you. Now I'm going to show you some of the differences between the iOS and Android devices using a iPad and a Nexus 7 tablet. So here I have the iPad and the Nexus 7 tablet. The Nexus 7 tablet runs on the Android OS, and obviously the iPad runs on iOS. And the first thing that you'll see is that on an Android tablet you might find a lot of widgets, etc., more colorful, but on an iPad or an iOS device you have rows and rows of icons and icons. And that's one big difference. For example, here you see on the Nexus 7 I have this weather widget, I have this time clock. This is also a widget, and we can interact with those items. For example, here I have again some of the other widgets that I have, and this is, let me just take this out, and here we have this Gmail widget, and I don't have to open all those apps. I can just have a glance at this, and if I find something interesting, I can just click on it and go here. I don't have to open 5 applications to see what is interesting or not. So widgets, yes, they do make sense in my opinion. And let's come back. And again, we have this drop down notification, but I feel it is a little bit limited on the iPad, but on Android this notification tree etc is next to none. These days you can interact directly from this. You don't even have to open the apps. And again, in terms of customization, if you see these icons here in this notification bar, I could just load a third-party app and I could create this. From here I can directly toggle the brightness, Wi-Fi, sound and other settings. So this is again the level of customization that you can get with an Android without rooting it. So that's next to none in my opinion. Also, I feel that multitasking, both these tablets can do it, but I feel the multitasking is a little bit better on the Android, because here, for example, let me open the Safari. Yes, we can use this 3-finger swipe to move from one application to another, like this. But it is a little bit clunky to get all the applications. You have to double click this home button, and from here I have to shift to that particular application. On an Android, most Android devices these days, we do get this dedicated multitasking button, and you get this visual tray, and I feel from this it is much easier to switch between applications. So that's one more thing. I like this multitasking tray notification compared to the iOS way of multitasking. And on the other hand, again, to a user who hasn't used both these devices, I would definitely say that the iPad looks a lot friendlier and easier to use, because with an Android device he might be a bit confused with all these icons and widgets running. So again, that's a personal preference. But I've seen that some of my friends who migrated from iOS to Android device, they were uncomfortable for about a day or two, but they got really comfortable with those devices. So again, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but again, you get additional features. One thing that I like about iOS device is the consistency. Apple releases their iOS updates and almost all the devices can easily migrate to the same. On the Android world, it is a total mess. Unless you're having a device, Google device that's a Nexus device, you will get latest update. But if you're using, for example, third-party devices like from HTC, Samsung, etc., you're not sure to get the updates. Again, I have noticed that I have used a lot of Samsung and HTC devices. Only the latest high-end phones or whatever do get the latest updates. The mid-range and the lower-end devices are just left out. For example, I have some HTC phones that are still stuck on Android version 2.2. So that's kind of a bummer. With iOS, at least you get a guarantee of latest OS update for the next couple of years. But with an Android device, unless it's a Nexus device, that's not a guarantee. Also, in terms of hardware quality, I have to say the hardware quality of this iOS devices is excellent. For example, my iPad 1 is still working perfectly fine. And again, I won't say that Android devices are not good in quality, but it differs from manufacturer to manufacturer. Generally, I found the HTC devices to be pretty good in build quality. One more thing that is ideal for iOS is that due to limited versions of devices that Apple produces, you find a lot of accessories for iOS devices, for example, cases, docks, etc. But for the other hand, the Nexus devices, it will be a little bit limited, because again, you have hundreds and hundreds of Android based devices. That also brings me to another point, is that making a decision about an iOS product is very easy, because you just have about 2 or 3 choices. Whereas on an Android, you have, for example, Android phones, you have dozens and dozens of models to choose from, and that can be a little bit confusing even for a person like me who gets to review all these gadgets. When most of my users ask me for a device for, let's say, which is the best 20,000K device, it's very difficult to recommend, because some devices excel in one thing, some devices excel in other. On the other hand, I would say with iOS, you know what kind of experience you are going to get. One advantage that now the Android has is that these days you are getting budget oriented tablets and what do you say, even phones, the mid range and the lower end. iOS is still targeting what do you say, the high end market, and I would say it's a good thing, but it is not very good. What I have noticed is with Android devices, the mid range and the lower end devices tend to have a lot of compromises. For example, the screen quality is not that great, and the touch experience, etc., might not be that. Also, some manufacturers, to keep the cost down, skimp on features like RAM, etc., and that can lead to a little bit of frustrating experience. But with an iOS device, again, you do pay a lot, but you get that consistent experience. I would say if you want a great Android phone, if you're looking for a budget oriented great Android phone, sorry. To get a great experience, you still need to shell out a lot of money. To sum it down, it all comes down to the end user experience. If you are someone who likes to do a lot of customization, likes the widget, and you are a kind of a power user, then Android, you will like it a little bit more. On the other hand, if you want simplicity, ease of use, iOS is the way to go. But personally, I can't see myself as of now going to the iOS. The hardware is great, but I personally feel the iOS software is holding it back. I hope this video was helpful and it helps you in deciding which OS you want for your smartphone or tablet. If you found this video helpful, I'll appreciate if you can click on the like button given below. That's it for now. This is Ranjit from tech2buzz.com, and I hope to see you in my next video.